if you walk on, you have to kind of have a screw loose. And people who have a screw loose are generally either really successful or not at all.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Under the Number, episode 15 here with my good friend Lewis Burik, former Stanford walk-on legend, one of the inside backers for Stanford from 2015 to 2019, and he has now transitioned from the gridiron to the boardroom.
Oh, love that.
Co-founder of DubClub, seed stage startup. He's in the trenches, he's grinding, he's building. Lewis, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Big fan of the program and honored to be on.
Let's start with a little relationship mapping here. It's very key for the walk-ons at any program, certainly was the case at Stanford, to quickly and aggressively identify the walker allies on the team. Give me your walker ally, Mount Rushmore at Stanford.
So this is a non-walker walker who is a great ally.
Friendlies.
That's a great question. I'm putting Alfieri up there. That's the first name that came to my brain. But he's got kind of a mean streak to him. You got to stay on his good side. But you catch him on a good day. That's a great walk-on ally. I'm putting Solomon Thomas on there. I think I got lumped in the D-line row fall camp my freshman year. And Solomon is like the biggest human being, most impressive person on earth. And I was kind of hopeful that he was nice, and he was. So that was a lot of points. I would put McCaffrey up there too. McCaffrey's a good humor guy, walk-ons and non-walk-ons alike. And Scooter's number one ally. I don't know why I really indexed to the class of 18 when I was just rapid firing, but Scooter Harrington he's
in a class of his own.
He's in a class of his
Scooter
own.
off that list.
I'd maybe put him as an honorary walk-on. He wouldn't like to hear that, but
fall camp freshman year, you're in the same row as Solly. Freshman camp sucks for everyone. It really sucks for a freshman walk-on. It really, really sucks for a freshman walk-on inside linebacker. Give me the flyover of freshman camp, highs and lows.
This is my old man yells at cloud opportunity. My freshman fall, and I'm sure the old heads that were older than me at Stanford would debate this. They would say it was an easy camp, but it was a really, really hard camp. It was like 95 degrees every day. And we actually did 2-a-days in full pads all the time. And that was like the last year we did that. And I showed up, I was in a two-room double in Kimball Hall with Ryan Beecher, who is one of my best friends on earth. But I was like, where am I? Who's this guy from Fresno, like guzzling Carl's Jr. at all hours of the night? And it's 100 degrees all the time. And on the third floor of Kimball Hall is like 20 degrees hotter than the rest of the Bay Area. So yeah, it sucked. It sucked, but it was also weirdly fun for me because I'm like a true football psycho. Like I've got a little bit of the, not like I really love football, especially when I was 18. I've got a little bit of the like Jim Harbaugh gene where it's just like, I would love to just play football all the time. That'd be amazing. And I had come from a high school program that was really bad at football. So I was at Stanford. I was like, whoa, these guys care about this a lot. And they're really good at football. Like, this is super fun. These guys are professionals. Like, you know, it felt like I was at Disney World, but it was also like just the hardest thing ever, the worst thing ever. So it was an interesting dynamic, but I survived.
Well, in surviving, there had to have been some wake-up calls.
I didn't know how to ride a bike that was a big adjustment period. I was not a California kid. I grew up in Chicago in the city. So I didn't know how to ride a bike. That was challenging. And then you just getting your ass kicked every day. That was tough. Yeah, that's the other thing about Stanford is we ran the football when I was a freshman. A lot of power, down, and around, inside linebacker, go run into a fullback as hard as you can. So it was very. I remember feeling like I had been hit by a car pretty much every single day. And it was funny because like at the same time, I was having a lot of fun. It was cool. Football was serious for the first time ever. All due respect to all my high school football friends who are listening, if any are. It's just a different thing. So like all the other walk-ons or like freshmen who like were not taking it as seriously, like at the end of the day, they just kind of like hang out, play cards. I was like, I had ice everywhere. I've got the Normatex on. It's just like a dork. I wanted to be at practice, and literally my body could not do that and continue to show up at practice because I was like 185 pounds at the time going against O-linemen that were like 250 at minimum, just getting killed.
I mean, what were you supposed to do? 185 pound, 5'10".
I should have played safety, but I wasn't very athletic. I was probably the slowest linebacker in addition to the lightest. It's a bad combo. But I like the position.
Who was the most intimidating player on the team?
Blake Martinez in my room. He was a freaking beast.
Film room, post-practice. You watch, in college, you watch everything back for like basically the entire day, down to drills. The technique is so focused upon that if you screw up in a practice, you will then watch it again with all your pals in your position room and the coach, and you'll explain what happened. I'm sure that you had many times where you made a great play and you got a pat on the back, and other ones where you wish it wasn't on film. What happened that time that you hit a bag in the entire...
I was wondering where this was going.
And I think that you might have like a workers' comp case against Stanford football. What could have happened to you?
Honestly, my line is I hit the bag with such force that basically it didn't want to be a bag anymore. And it gave up. And it flipped over and tried to kill me. It is pretty hilarious. And I'm very lucky that it didn't go another
You're lucky
way.
that your manhood was spared, for one.
Sure. For sure.
That had to have been the funniest film room.
It was. I was shook up. Steve Bartlinski was. He was the trainer at the time. He did not have a very good bedside manner. Pretty old school cat. And even he was like, "Are you okay?" He was like, "Is this guy about to sue us?" I was like, "I'm good. I'm not a narc, but I need a moment." Because that was scary.
That's such a rough way to start a practice.
I'm pretty sure Beecher screwed up the bag before. It's his ultimate prank.
Of that coaching staff, biggest football guy?
Great question. Pete Alomar.
Pete Alomar beats Dwayne Akina?
Well, when I think of football guy, Coach Akina there's a lot of great football guys on that staff. But when I think of like the old school, like, t-shirt tucked into the sweats, that was Coach Alomar. He's got that football guy stereotype down to a T.
You were talking about how happy you were and how like gleeful you were about the just that it was football season, your freshman camp. My freshman camp, my only camp, when I arrived,
make it about you, Brent, please.
I vividly remember, this is coming back to you. I vividly remember looking around and basically being like, okay, I think I know most of the people here. First week, like I think I know what position people are playing. It's like 100 guys. It's kind of hard to even totally keep track. And then when they take the jersey off, they're just walking around the facility. You're like, not really sure who that is. And I remember being very confused about Charlie Beal. I was like, is this guy like a defensive back or like a safety? He was a punter, just happened to be pretty jacked. Calvin Chandler and Beal, I kept interchanging in my head. I thought Calvin might be the jacked punter. He was a safety. And then I remember you walking around literally with a shit-eating grin on your face at all times with a sleeves cut off, tucked in t-shirt, khaki shorts, belt, and some pretty big biceps for a small guy. And I had no
That's where
idea.
I carried all my weight.
I had no idea what position you played.
This guy GA or
I knew you had some sort of affiliation with the team, ranging from
equipment staff, maybe
inside linebacker to GA to equipment staff.
I really did enjoy it. I mean, I think that's the reason why I played all 4 years, despite not like playing much on Saturdays. I mean, football takes a lot of time in college, but it really was fun for me throughout my career, just because I really like football. And the thought of doing that right now, by the way, nothing could appeal less to me. Like, no. But especially at the beginning, when like, you know, you're in Disneyland, it was a lot of fun.
So that freshman year and sophomore year, 2 games in particular I want to ask you about. One being the Rose Bowl against Iowa. Pretty electric. Your second year, 2016, at Notre Dame, which if you're a younger guy or a non-travel guy, they'll let you go to the game that's closest. The team will bring you to the game that's closest to your hometown, even as a young guy. So you found yourself in South Bend. Talk about those 2 environments. I'm assuming those were the top of the top for you in that first 2 years. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, the Rose Bowl was awesome. Very, again, like as someone who, you know, grew up watching football 8 hours every Saturday on the couch, to then like be in Pasadena on New Year's Day when the stealth bomber goes over their head is like, whoa, this is super cool. And Rose Bowl is actually better than advertised. Like, I'm a big sports nut. I've been to a lot of sporting events and stadiums, like Fenway, not that cool. Yankee Stadium is cool, but not that cool. Rose Bowl is like better than advertised. Like the day, the actual grass, the paint on the grass is just like perfect. The sunset in the fourth quarter, the fact that it's at the end of the long season, it's just perfect. Notre Dame, I grew up in Chicago, and I went to Catholic high school as a Jewish kid, and I hated Notre Dame because, with all due respect to all Notre Dame listeners, the Notre Dame Catholic high school crowd in Chicago is like a very proud and sometimes annoying crew. So I would always roll my eyes. So being able to go to South Bend and win was very cool and fun. And I had a bunch of family that went. That was the year, more importantly than beating Notre Dame, that the Cubs won the World Series. And we beat Notre Dame on a Saturday that was game 1 of the NLDS, and Miguel Montero hit a grand slam at Wrigley Field. And I was listening as we were leaving the visitors' locker room at Notre Dame Stadium on like my phone, Miguel Montero hitting a grand slam, and I saw my buddies from high school as that happened. We were all like attacking each other. So honestly, that's my biggest memory from that game.
Best day ever. Of all the Pac-12, went to a Pac-12 championship while you were there. 2 Pac-12 championships, Rose Bowl, Sun Bowl, Alamo
Twice.
Bowl, couple of visits
twice.
to El Paso.
Yeah.
2 Sun Bowls, an Alamo Bowl. And there were just a lot of big games in the regular season throughout that time. When you look back, who were, even just from a defensive preparation, we'll make this a 2-part question. From a defensive preparation perspective, who were the guys who the team had to prepare for the most, individuals, and who was it that when it came to game time, when you were there front row on the sideline, where you were like, holy shit, this guy is a next level prospect? I have a hypothesis, but go.
The one name that came to my brain first is someone who I'm sure you're not guessing, but you guess first.
Justin Herbert.
Oregon quarterback, but not him. I think it was my freshman year. Vernon Adams Jr. was like the greatest college football player ever. I don't know if it was just when he played us, but that game cost us the playoff. Oregon in November came to Stanford and beat us, and this guy played like the best game ever. The other guy that came to mind immediately was Darnold. Darnold was really good.
People sleep on Darnold.
They beat us in the Pac-12 title game my junior year? Year, I think.
And then they went on and beat Penn State in the Rose Bowl, didn't they?
Yes, they were a very good football team. Michael Pittman was on that team. They had some studs on defense. And Sam Darnold was just like, the play was never over. And he made a lot of like 40-yard crossbody right in the breadbasket. Those two are the first ones in my brain.
If you were the minister of culture at Stanford University, what would you do? You're a startup guy. You're a problem solver. What would you do to just drive football culture into the school? Just basically revive the program, breathe life into the program on campus.
I don't know. Some sort of office hours at halftime, or make it more academic in nature. I just don't think it's not a football place. I think if they were trying to fill the stadium, I would go for the locals more so. Not even that it's a football area. Like, I don't think of the Bay Area as a big college sports area, but they could try harder. Like, make beer cheaper and have tickets be cheaper, and that's a good start.
I had two uncles who went to Stanford in the late 80s and early 90s, and you could bring a keg into the stadium as a student.
That's a great place to get started.
We might have to start there. So sophomore year, junior year, senior year, I think there are still some Rice Owls having nightmares about you to this day.
Yeah.
You're a UC Davis Aggies' worst nightmare.
Stanford Sports Information actually told me that I have the highest tackles per snap played coefficient in the Harbaugh-Shaw era.
That is incredible.
Yeah, I did just make that up, but it sounds amazing coming out of my mouth.
It sounds very possible.
It sounds credible. And honestly, I think it's possible because I did not play a lot of snaps and I had a number of tackles.
Closing the chapter on the Stanford football career, who was the player you modeled your game after the most?
Dick Butkus.
The
greatest football player of all time. May he rest in peace.
Which NFL player of our era do you respect the most?
Brian Urlacher.
Who's the best young guy coming up? Who you would hope
in the NFL?
Yeah. If you had a son today, who would you be telling him to root for?
We got to see Caleb play a snap before I can answer that and say Caleb.
I'm not having my son root for a quarterback with nail polish.
I'm getting my nails painted for opening day.
We'll turn the page from football here. So honestly, this is like a real takeaway from the grind of walk-on life, inside linebacker walk-on life, getting physically murked on a daily basis for 4 years.
Nice way of putting it.
So many people say that investment banking, boutique investment banking, is like the hardest thing ever. How easy is being an investment banking analyst when you are not having somebody physically run through you multiple times a day inside of your cubicle?
That is such a good question. Maybe that is what you should, that they should teach that at Goldman Sachs. Instead of training, taking all the exams, they just have Daniel Marks run through the first year analysts. Just gets better from here. Yeah, Sam Ewell's actually had good perspective on this. He was in my locker bay. He was a walk-on, so he can't be an ally. He was just a regular old walker. But like super good dude, nicest guy ever. Like did a fancy investment banking and private equity path after graduating. He was like, it's not that hard. You just kind of do what you're asked to do and like care about it. And you're like already in the 99th percentile. Once you acquire the skills that are required to just being able to do that. And if you can just do what you're asked to do and have a positive attitude, you're pretty much in first place all the time, which is crazy, but it's true.
You made it through the 2 years, piece of cake. Again, no one is physically beating your ass at that job.
Yeah.
So different story.
Most
different
days.
Circumstances.
Unless the footnotes were off.
You made the journey back to your homeland in Chicago to get into venture. And that didn't last long.
No.
Because you were meant to be an entrepreneur. Tell me the origin story of DubClub. It's with your two fellow co-founders, Stanford guys, one fellow walker, Ryan Gardner, Stanford football walk-on, and a non-walk-on, a legitimate athlete, Andrew Dashbach.
Baseball, baseball's kind of a different, every baseball player's a little bit of a walk-on. You got to play minor league.
Tell us the story. Let's shift gears here. Business of sport. This makes total sense to me. You guys get it. You found a total niche. What seemingly was a niche kind of operation, to where my understanding is there is a lot of hungry bettors out there in America. There are a lot of people who get very good at making picks for these bets. They needed a place to live and a content platform to serve their bets to the consumer better. And there was a better way to do it than on Twitter, Threads, and Discord channels. Tell me how right I am and tell me where I was wrong. Let's get into the juicy details of the origin of DubClub.
I think you nailed it, Brent. I think you've got a spot on the PR team at DubClub. No, you're spot on. I mean, this was something that started out of a desire to solve our own problems, right? Dash came to me. He called me like December of 2020. Dash, my co-founder, the guy who played baseball at Stanford. He's like,
Andrew
dude,
Dashbach.
Great cat most days. And he found these like super smart people on Twitter who were like super profitable, who knew what they were doing, who were giving out all these like really interesting ideas to their followers. And he was just missing them because it was all happening on Twitter and he was losing all his money because he was like, sports very dynamic, games start, they end, lines move. So he was like, there's got to be a better way. Ding. So we started very much on the like subscriber side of things in terms of how we were approaching the problem space. Like, let's just create something that's great for Dash so we can get his plays on time and he can win more. And then we got to know that the capper, that's the smart person in this world, the person who's an expert, who's like got some weird niche or some reason for having a uniquely interesting point of view on sports. And these people were building their businesses in a very hodgepodge way on the internet. DM me, I'll let you my VIP Twitter group after you Venmo me, I'll update the spreadsheet. So we started with the subscribers and we're like, we'll build something very simple for the supply side, the cappers as well. And just, they kind of became our new obsession. Like, how can we make something that's so simple, sleek, awesome for them, where it's very easy for them to make a ton of money and build a great business, and we can be a great partner.
Clear need that was found. Dash is, like you said, he's solving his own problem.
Getting killed.
He's getting killed. He can't find a professional capper on time to save his life. It was dark days for him.
Mm-hmm.
He has this light bulb moment. He comes to you immediately. Nice.
God knows why.
Being a smart guy. At what point, what was your immediate reaction, number one? And at what point did Gardner enter the chat?
So first of all, let me tell you why Dash called me. We took a class in school, some entrepreneurship class. I forget the name of it, but Tom Byers taught it. There was an advertisement for that class. I don't know if Tom Byers still teaches that class, but it was fantastic. Basically, like, very low key. They had really smart people give guest lectures. And the summit, or like the keystone project at the end of the quarter, was you'd like pitch a fake company to a VC. And Dash and I were on a team, and it was fun. And we had a fun presentation. It's like, I like working with this guy. It's called 10X. It was a gig. It was a gig booking platform for independent musicians who were just looking to pick up an extra gig. We didn't actually make anything. We just did a slide deck, but it was
You guys
fun.
were marketplace guys from the get-go.
Exactly. I put that on my LinkedIn. When did Gartner enter the chat? So I was living with Gartner at the time. So Dash and I would have these just like brainstorm whiteboarding sessions on Saturdays and Sundays. And Ryan's like doing his laundry next door.
Dash is like playing for the Orioles at this point, right? Like riding
Correct.
buses.
He's in the minor leagues doing you think being a walk-on is hard? Try playing minor league baseball. Like post-COVID, when there's no budget, he should be on the pod next. But anyway, Ryan's background is in investing. He's invested in some awesome companies that, have kind of like similar strands of DNA to us. And he was like super interesting. He had some great ideas. He helped like confine our focus, help us actually like ship stuff early in our journey. And that just kind of happened. It's like one of those classic Silicon Valley stories where, you're talking about stuff and the guy next door is like, oh, that sounds interesting. Let's run it to ground. And then
you have one day, one moment where you were like, all right, I'm officially have a high enough level of conviction that I'm going to quit my much safer, salaried, whatever you were, analyst, associate role at a venture shop. And I'm going to pursue my content marketplace for bettors and cappers, which is a little bit tough to justify when you say it out loud, but you guys have some serious momentum. So it's been a good decision thus far, to my understanding.
Yeah, so DubClub was an idea before I took the job at TechNexus. And I kind of knew in the back of my head, like, part of the reason why I wanted to go work at TechNexus was to see a lot of startups at the seed stage. You're like, what does a great seed stage founder look like? What do their metrics look like? What do their customers say about them? What do these other really smart investors that have written, hundreds of checks into companies, what are they looking for? So in the back of my mind, I was like, in a perfect world, like, could keep the DubClub thing baking, and I could acquire a bunch of things that would make me much more useful to DubClub at TechNexus. Because investment banking, for all the fancy whatever, it's not very helpful for starting a company at all. Like, at all. What was the light bulb moment where I was like, I'm going to quit my job? It was really like the business needed me. It was like, I wanted to spend more time with the business than I could at my job. And it was clear, like, the business could use more of my brain. And I think that's like a little different. Like, a lot of people who I talked to, we were starting DubClub, were like, you should quit your job right away and go all in right away. And honestly, maybe that would have been the right thing. Maybe we'd be further along today if that was true. And I did that. But the way it played out is like, the story, by the time I quit my job, I had a 70-hour work week ready for me at DubClub, right? And that maybe wouldn't have been true in October of 2021 when we launched with 7 cappers. But then it's like, shit, this is getting hard. We got to get some more hands on the wheel here. So that was really the signal. And it was like, this is super fun. I really enjoyed my work at TechNexus, but running your own company's a lot more fun.
I want to hear from your perspective about this, what is absolutely a mega trend in not only American society, but I think globally, of gambling. You can call it the degenerate economy. There have been different things tagged along to this wave, but basically the gamification of everything, and obviously policy tailwinds as things continue to get deregulated and become legal state by state. these companies like DraftKings and FanDuel, and then I can't drive one block in Dallas without seeing an ad for Prize Picks. Like these companies are Fliff. These are businesses that are well capitalized. And I mean, obviously DraftKings is public. These have become behemoths. What is your take on just the why?
Sports are fun. I mean, it's the only thing people still watch live TV on, by and large. I saw this in the Journal the other day. It's like the 100 top rated TV shows in 2023, like from the Super Bowl backwards a year. And it's like 96 of them are sporting events.
The top 10 are all NFL.
Yeah,
NFL,
I think it's like 55 of the top 60 are NFL games.
Right.
So sports are fun. That's what people care about. Like from a live entertainment perspective, or just an entertainment perspective, like sports are king in America. And what's more fun than just watching a game than having a little skin in the game and having that be part of the experience and sweating it out with your buddy on the couch. And that was really what drove a lot about our mission and as a company is sports are fun. Having skin in the game is fun. What if you could actually do it profitably? And you had a jungle guide who would teach you the right way to manage a bankroll and not get in over your skis and actually find an edge and not have to pick a team out of a hat. And that was really our mission with the Dash cohort, win more together with DubClub. And then what I've really fallen in love with is the entrepreneurs who are actually building a business, giving out this content. Because at the end of the day, all of the cappers that we work with, they are like me, right? They had a day job and they acquired some weird skill and they love sports and they want to build a business as a result of that. And they get to enjoy the benefits of all these new eyeballs. And they get to help these new eyeballs win more together with them. And we're kind of underneath it all, helping everybody in the ecosystem win more together. Cappers can build a bigger business. Subscriber can find a capper that suits their preferences. DubClub is kind of the enabling platform and the home for this premium sports content to live. So it's been a weird few years because like starting a company is super challenging and you don't know what you're doing and you kind of figure it out as you go. But there's definitely a lot of good wind at our back. And to your point, like, I don't think people are going to stop liking sports. I don't think people are going to stop looking for ways to basically up the ante a little bit when they're sitting on the couch on a Saturday. And I think they're going to want to win more than they would trying to do it on their own. So those are all good things for DubClub.
And you mentioned these cappers, and I've seen the content, some of the content you guys have put out with these cappers. It's funny. It's just like a total blend of, there's a 21-year-old boy basically one day, and then there's like a mother of two, woman who's looks like she's 40 years old, and it's this total blend. What would you say the typical DubClub capper, or what would you say all of these cappers have in common?
Great question. There is no typical because you're spot on. Like it's all over the place. The things that they have in common are they're authentic. They actually have something special to share with the world and they're doing it. Whether that's like their face on camera, I'm, day in the life, or it's like, this is my persona and I'm authentically this person, and they're consistent. They take their business extremely seriously and they take their research extremely seriously. They take the marketing aspects extremely seriously. They take care of their subscribers and don't take for granted that they're going to be there forever. So it's like any person building a business. Like you got to have a unique thing to share with the world and you got to execute maniacally every day.
Some of these cappers, they get smart, and you can see, like you said, you have to do something different. You have to have an edge. They're getting smart on niche sports,
For sure.
or they'll become the WNBA guy or the women's tennis guy. What are some of the really niche areas, and where have you actually seen some incredible times where people are making a ton of money because they've gotten smart on a very slept on part of the world of sports?
That is where a lot of the value is, because, like trying to pick games against the spread on an NFL Sunday, that's like tough. People can do it, but it's a very liquid, competitive market. It's just very sharp. Where there are opportunities where, you can have more of an edge or more of a proprietary insight that's differentiated. I see a lot of it in UFC, mixed martial arts. That's really a matchup game. Like, there's not as much structured data. And if you got somebody who like knows the fight game and studies a ton of tape and knows how people will match up with each other, there's a lot of edge to be had there. There's a lot of small sports that don't have a lot of volume or liquidity, where there's like really smart people who cover it maniacally. Like, I'm thinking literally esports, like Dota, Counter-Strike, League of Legends. Like, there are very liquid markets where people are building huge communities and subscription businesses focused exclusively covering these sports. Those are the two that come to mind most immediately in terms of like, wait, you can do that? Yeah, and we've got some rock stars covering all the above.
How would you compare 2 years, take the first 2 years of DubClub and being in the trenches as COO, compare the sheer amount of learning and compare that to what you get in 2 years in a hyper-structured investment banking role?
I would say the biggest difference is the amount of decisions you have to make on a daily basis. Like, if you're, by the way, investment banking is a great place to start your career, or like consulting, or any like, structure, acquire skill sets, learn how to respond to emails and be a professional. But it's just, you don't have to really, there's not a lot of decision-making happening in an investment banking analyst's brain. Whereas when you're doing a startup, it's like every day, just like make a ton of decisions. And as you get bigger, you start making fewer decisions, but they become less obvious. Like, what should we do? How do we counterpunch? Like, you hire great people who can make a lot of decisions and empower them to make a lot of decisions, but you still have to make a lot of decisions, and the decisions become more challenging. So I think that's the biggest difference between being an entrepreneur and working in like classic professional services. It's just the amount of decisions that have to be made on a daily basis. And it like literally, like, your brain is like tired at the end of the day. It's like, I need to go to sleep. In banking, you spend a lot of your working hours just waiting for someone to give you something to do, and you're not like on. My experience being an entrepreneur, it's like from the moment you get on the machine until you're done for the day, it's like thinking, making decisions, being decisive all the time.
So you switch over full time, leave TechNexus, June of 22, like all in on DubClub, co-founding role, time to go. Got to go raise money, got to put together this core team, all of the things that come with getting just off the ground.
Yeah.
Fast forward about 9 months, and it's March of 2023, and Silicon Valley Bank explodes with no warning to anyone in the world. Tell me your Silicon Valley Bank story.
That was not a fun weekend, but it was St. Patrick's Day weekend, actually, which is a big deal in Chicago. We had like plans.
Walk us through, for people who don't know.
Silicon Valley Bank is a bank that a lot of tech companies that have ties to Silicon Valley choose to use for like basic financial services, like a checking account and cash management. And we had the vast majority of our cash with them. There was a run on the bank in March of 2023 and a huge liquidity crisis. There's a lot of good literature that's better than what I can summarize. And basically there was a moment on Friday morning where it's like, I don't know if we have the money that you think you have at the bank. Have a great weekend. So there was just like one of those moments where like, geez, like with there's a very high probability that there's going to be no harm, no foul. But as the entrepreneur who's got payroll and needs the company to operate next week, no matter what happens, you're like, okay, here are all the different possible scenarios. Here's what we're going to do, A, B, C, D. It was a very stressful time. At the end of the day, everything ended up being backed by the FDIC, but I did not sleep a lot that weekend. I vividly remember Sunday when they announced on TV that it was like the FDIC was going to guarantee all deposits. Don't worry, like you can get your money out at your convenience. That was a good beer, that Sunday night dinner. That's a Mount Rushmore.
Mount Rushmore of beers over the course of your life.
Bank run crisis.
Post FDIC insurance
backstop.
Beer.
Yeah. Put that one on the Mount Rushmore.
What are your reflections on starting a company with your friends?
Ooh. It's really fun. It's really challenging. Be honest early and often. And everyone's figuring it out on the fly. So starting a company is like being in a relationship, truly. Like you're going to see people at their worst. You're going to see people at their best, less frequently. But like you have to be comfortable being direct with people and having them know that this is business partner to business partner, not friend to friend. And that's why it's really fun, is because you can be very direct and honest, and there's just a lot of trust that's built from human relationships over, at this point, a decade. That, especially doing it when you're remote for big chunks of time, I think it's hard to build that kind of human relationship and trust from scratch.
What are the most key intangibles that you guys took from athletics, do you think, that have helped you the most in building a business at this early stage?
Probably work ethic, honestly. Work ethic and discipline. You got to work a lot of hours, and you got to not do a lot of other stuff that other people are doing. And that's kind of something you get used to with football or baseball. So those are the two that are like specific to athletics.
How does that translate in the way that you guys look for candidates to bring onto the team? What are your non-negotiable traits when it comes to your hiring?
Problem solver is probably number one in my book, at least right now in my brain. It's like, is this person, when you hire someone, when you're an early stage company, they're doing a job. You have to be very thoughtful about the job description and the expectations and the responsibilities. But at the end of the day, it's going to change pretty quickly. Is this someone who can just solve problems and there's a lot of trust that they're going to solve the problem, or if they don't solve the problem, they're going to get you something that's going to give you signal that will help you solve the problem after that try. If you can't do that in a startup game, and you just like spend a lot of time deliberating or like not doing anything besides trying to solve problems, it's just like, it's a company killer, I think. You just waste too much time.
What's your take on, some people say the best way to, at least on a core early team, like Vinod Khosla would say that you should hire outsiders as frequently as you can.
Outside your like personal network?
No. So the example in terms of background. So the example being, like, an example he has is he's like, Brian Chesky would have never started Airbnb if he was some director at Hilton. Like if he was working in hospitality, lodging, whatever the genre is. And so with something like DubClub, I wonder, because obviously you're looking for intangibles, you're looking for those things that you just described, but do you find yourself being like, this guy or girl, they don't know sports.
Yeah, that's a great
question. They haven't been in it versus, oh, wait, this guy doesn't know sports and hasn't been entrenched in the gambling world and isn't a serial game watcher. Maybe he's going to come to us with some of the most interesting takes and observations that we're all missing because we're all hardcore sports guys.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think different roles, it's different. It's important in different ways. Like a lot of our technical people are not sports people. They're not sports bettors. It's just kind of, the thing that's non-negotiable is they have to be passionate about the problem space. Like you got to fall in love with something, whether it's helping the entrepreneurs, whether it's, oh, this is a new category that's interesting that I care about, whether it's just like, I love being at the seed stage. There's got to be something that they're like super amped about, because it's just too much work. And it's like, it's so different than just being like a rank and file person at a big company. So you got to find something that you fall in love with. It doesn't have to be sports. And a lot of our people are not big sports watchers, sports bettors.
All right. In closing here, best sports city in the U.S.
Chicago.
Second best sports city in the U.S.
Philly.
Biggest emerging market in sports.
Oklahoma City.
Biggest emerging sport.
Women's basketball.
Second biggest.
Esports.
F1 or horse racing?
Whew. Very interesting question. I'm old school, horse racing.
What's the hardest genre to bet on?
NFL, Sunday.
Best casino in America?
This is a lame answer, but I like the Cosmo.
You like the Cosmo?
In Vegas. I saw Richard Sherman shooting craps there for about 4 hours when I was in college. I don't know if he's a listener to the pod.
He is.
That's a classy casino. I like the Cosmo. I like the Aria a lot. I haven't been to Vegas in a few years. I got to make it back out there.
Most overrated college football program?
I really wish I could say Michigan, but I can't. I am an Ohio State fan. But Notre Dame.
Best athlete you ever played with at Stanford?
McCaffrey. Duh.
Second best?
Solomon. Duh. I don't even know who number 3 is. Conrad.
Where do you see the biggest opportunity for DubClub? We're going to bring it home right here. Where's DubClub? DubClub's 5 years from now, the ideal world. What does DubClub look like? What's going on? What are the heights that it's achieved 5 years down the road from now?
DubClub, 5 years from now, just same mission, same vision, same strategy. This is the place where sports cappers and the everyday guy win more together, building that destination for premium sports content. And it's going to get a lot bigger, and we're going to have a beautiful product and a beast team and a big, beautiful company.
Love it. One sign-off piece of advice to the walk-on who's about to head into his first camp in summer 2024 at some program, wherever it is, any program. What do you say? What are your parting pearls of wisdom to the 18-year-old who's about to be in for a serious month and season and hopefully 4 years ahead?
Be nice to the equipment staff. That's a good friend to have. Yeah, that's a big one. They'll give you a lot of swag. They'll take care of you when your shoes break. Have a sense of humor. I think that goes a long way. Yeah, those two, you should be fine.
You should be fine. Ice, Normatec legs.
Yes.
Recover.
Yes, important.
All right, that's Lewis Burik. Thanks for jumping on. That was fun. Where can people find you? Where can they join DubClub Nation? Where can they find you guys?
DubClub.win. We've got a great search and discovery portal. Follow us on Twitter or X if you're more modern. DubClub_win. We're on Insta, DubClub_win. TikTok emerging for us. DubClub_win as well. We're all over social. We live on social. Subscribe to a capper. DM me on Twitter or LinkedIn if you want a recommendation. I'll do a personal consultation for you. I know a lot of them, very close. And yeah, win more together with DubClub. Go team.
Mount Rushmore of Stanford walk-ons. Lewis Burik. I think you got a spot there. Thanks, man.
Amen, brother.